Stand up, New York Giant fans. I have not gotten a chance to watch the Schoen and Daboll presser, so I actually watched that with you guys live. I saw little excerpts here and there. I'm guessing based off of the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of chatter on Twitter, of whether, about quotes from Joe Schoen, that there probably wasn't a whole lot to take out of it in terms of this offseason. But you don't expect a whole lot to come out of it because, well, they're not going to tell you what they're going to do in the draft 4 months before it takes place. I think we'll start to get a lot more clues as free agency comes into play, and, we'll start to see where the tea leaves fall where they may. But the huge news that came out today was, as we expected, the Giants made a lot of coaching changes. Bobby Johnson. Let's clap it up in the chat. I know everybody wants to talk about Wink, and we'll talk about Wink, and I'll give my full opinion on Wink. But let's start off with Bobby Johnson. Let's start off with some good news. Something that everybody was really looking forward to this offseason, going into the offseason, after the way that the New York Giants offensive line performed all year. The Giants move off of Bobby Johnson. Giants offensive line was pitiful. It was the worst offensive line this team has had since I've been on YouTube. In the last 10 to 12 years, they surrendered over 80 sacks this year, the second most in the history of the NFL in a single season. And it was with 3 different quarterbacks. So you can't just blame a singular quarterback. The offensive line was pitiful, awful. And you have 2 building blocks, young pieces on that offensive line with Evan Neal and obviously John Michael Schmitz, that you need to see growth going into their second and third seasons next year. You spend premium draft capital on those players. So I thought that was an obvious move. We'll see who the New York Giants bring in. But if you ask me, I think you got to spend as much as you possibly can to bring in the best offensive line coach you possibly can to try to fix this team. Giants have had no continuity in terms of the coaching staff with the offensive line and the players on that offensive line for years. And they have to find the right guy to get these guys going down the right path. Do I think they need to add more talent? Absolutely. I don't think we have the long-term answer at the guard. Maybe as Zudu develops into that. John Michael Schmitz, we'll see. He was a rookie. He went through some ebbs and flows. Obviously, Bobby Johnson probably wasn't helping him out very much, but the Giants make a change there. So I think that was some good news. I think most Giant fans could be in agreement there that we're all very excited that we move on from Bobby Johnson, something that was long overdue, something that we knew that was probably going to happen today. In addition to that, the New York Giants also move on from Agahi, which, again, I thought was a fairly obvious move. The special teams for the last 4 years has been pitiful. Last time we had good special teams was like 5 years ago, which is ironic because when we brought in Joe Judge, we thought that the special teams were going to take a big jump, being that he was a good special teams coordinator with the New England Patriots, or supposedly was. Special teams got worse between him and Magayi. The special teams were actually pretty good before Joe Judge took the job, and now the Giants move on from him after 2 years with I think he was 2 years with actually, I think he was here before. What am I saying? He was here before Judge. Judge retained him, and then Daboll retained him as well. But the Giants move on from him, which I think was long overdue. Did the special teams get better in certain aspects this year? Yeah. We finally got a punt returner. Gunner actually looked really good down the stretch. I thought our punter was better this year, but the punt coverage still wasn't great. So the special teams, I think we needed a change there. I think most fans agreed with that as well. So those were the 2 obvious moves. And again, I haven't gotten a chance to watch this press conference. And I think where a lot of people are kind of going at Brian Daboll on Twitter is during the press conference, he basically came out and said, and I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. We'll watch it live together if you haven't seen it yet either. I'm sure most of you already have. But I think Daboll in the press conference basically came out and said he expected Wink to come back. And then like 3 hours, 4 hours later, whatever it was, we find out that Wink is resigning from the New York Giants. And that came out shortly after we found out that the New York Giants were firing the outside linebacker coach, who was a staple with Wink Martindale, a guy that he brought over from the Baltimore Ravens. And, shortly thereafter, Wink said, I'm resigning. I don't want to be here with the New York Giants. And everybody's up in arms about it. Listen, if you watch my channel, you know I'm a continuity guy. I don't like a lot of change. I want to be able to build something. I don't like a lot of turnover with my coaching staffs. I want Daboll back. I was of the assumption that they may move on from Kafka if they're going to draft a quarterback. We'll talk more about that throughout the stream. At least as of now, it seems as if Kafka will be back, which I'm fine with. I thought the offense looked better throughout the course of the year. We definitely saw some big plays with Tyrod. We saw wide receivers running wide open. And we'll see if Kafka's back, if the offense can evolve more next year, hopefully. Didn't take a big enough leap this year, that's for sure. But obviously a lot of injuries, so on and so forth. But I wanted Wink back too. But I'm not going to be a guy that's going to come on here and go on Twitter and scream like the world is ending because the New York Giants moved on from Wink Martindale. At the end of the day, Brian Daboll's the man in charge. He's the head man in charge. He's the guy that gets paid to make the decisions. And at the end of the day, if you're going to come on here and you're going to go on Twitter and you're going to try to tell me that Wink Martindale is irreplaceable, I'm going to say you're out of your mind. He was with the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens moved on from how they're doing. They're going to the Super Bowl 2 years later. So is he replaceable? Yeah, he's replaceable. Did he do a good job here? Yeah, I think he did some good things. I wanted him back. He was a guy that the players clearly liked a lot. Dexter Lawrence definitely jumped up as a player under Wink Martindale. Xavier McKinney certainly had his best year, I think, as a pro under Wink Martindale this year. Deontay Banks showed a lot of promise this year as a rookie corner. We saw, obviously, McFadden had a nice year this year, his second year in the pros. Bobby Okereke had a very nice year. But at the end of the day, the defense ranked 27th. And I understand we created turnovers. And that was the big argument from everybody all over Twitter. Look at all the turnovers we created. And we did. Giants created 31 turnovers this year, I think, which led the league. And it was apparent. That was why we were winning those football games. Tommy DeVito was getting the credit. But at the end of the day, we're creating 3, 4, 5 turnovers in those games. We didn't create any turnovers last year. Did you knock Wink last year when the team only had 6 interceptions for the entire year? We had 16 turnovers all of last year. I think Wink Martindale's a good defensive coordinator. But I don't think it's something that I'm going to be up in arms about. Let's see who they hire for the defensive coordinator. That's my opinion on the matter. I'm not going to flip out about it. Again, I haven't got a chance to watch the press conference, so maybe some people are being a little bit more skeptical because they got to watch that. Maybe I will feel differently after I get to watch it. But I always knew it was a possibility. The team didn't do well this year. That's what happens when you lose football games. And then you have a lot of people that come out and say, oh, well, they should have fired Brian Daboll didn't do good. Brian Daboll's the head coach. Of course the coordinator is going to go before the head coach. And Daboll knows his job's going to start to be on the line. And he's starting to make changes that he feels he needs to make in order to retain his job. At the end of the day, the team won 6 games last year. We're picking top 5. When you're picking top 5, you're usually going to be on the hot seat the next year. And Daboll's trying to make the change he feels he needs to make to get this team in the position for him to be able to retain his job. So I can't fault him for that. And we'll see if he makes the right decision. Am I in love with it? No. I want to Wink back. But I'm not going to say it's the end of the world either. But what's going on, man? Thanks for everybody popping in, man. What's going on, Jax? What's going on, Bliss? What's going on, Mickey? What's going on, Stevie Mac? What's going on, ECK Sports? My 2 cents is Wink is a solid defensive coordinator, but he's not the end. 100%. What's up, Young Hendricks? What's going on, Anthony Ross? Listen. If you look at these numbers, you're going to tell me that there's no argument to be had that Wink could have been replaced? Giants this year, and I understand that the offense didn't help. When you have a bad offense, it hurts the defense. I understand all of that. Okay? I understand all that. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I pulled up the offensive stats, but the defensive stats aren't much better. I took 2 pictures. I pulled up the offensive stats by accident. We were horrible on offense too. But the defense was not good. There were glimpses. We created a lot of turnovers. We were opportunistic. I'll pull up the defensive stats in a minute or two. I was in a rush after I got off of work. But we ranked 27th in yards against. We weren't very good this year defensively, in my opinion. Were we opportunistic? Yes. Did the defense keep us in games? Yes. Were there great individualistic performances? Yes. But we still struggled against the run. There's still things that I look at and I say to myself, we can get a lot better at. We had 34 sacks, which ranked 29th in the National Football League. 29th, but we blitzed the most in the NFL. Blitzed 43% of the time. That led the NFL in blitz frequency, yet we had the 4th least amount of sacks. So I'm not going to act like the guy was a perfect defensive coordinator. I'm not going to act like the world's on fire because he decided to resign. We move on. Baltimore Ravens moved on. They seem to be doing just fine. But what's going on, everybody? Thanks for popping in the stream. Taco says, hey, and hope all is well. Big offseason ahead. Huge offseason ahead. We got a lot, obviously the quarterback position could potentially be a change this year. I think it's the first offseason where that's a distinct possibility. The Giants could obviously move on from the quarterback. We'll see. It's the first year where I think that's been a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. We'll find out. But in previous years, the opportunity wasn't really there. This year, the opportunity's there, and Jones gave the Giants an opportunity to do it. So we'll find out what happens this offseason. But that aside, lots of other things now. We're going to be getting a new defensive coordinator. We're going to be getting a new offensive line coach. That's going to be massive. I think that might be the most important move this entire offseason getting stability at that offensive line coach, and the guy that they bring in is going to be vastly important. We've gone through, like 5 offensive line coaches, I feel, in like the last 4 years. It's been a disgrace between Mark Colombo and DeGuglielmo, whatever his last name was. So many offensive line coaches. So they got to get that thing situated, and we'll see if they're able to do it this offseason with the offensive line coach. Obviously, the draft, the quarterback, everything else. We'll see. But I definitely think there's some bright spots as well. We'll see how the Giants build next year. It was nice to finally beat the Eagles, and they definitely fought for Daboll down the stretch. Alex says, hey, Chris, just joined. Did you hear the rumors of a fight between Daboll and Wink? Also, do you think Lawrence takes a step back next year now? No, I don't. And listen, I get where you're going with that, because you say to yourself, well, look, when Wink came over here, Dexter Lawrence took a big step up. And that's fair and it's accurate. But I think that Patterson, the defensive line coach, had as much, if not more, to do with that. And hopefully we keep Patterson than Wink did. You look at his history as a defensive line coach with the Minnesota Vikings. You look at how much he was able to get out of all the players that were there. So many players love playing for him. I think that is as much, if not more, to do with it than Wink Martindale in terms of Dexter Lawrence growing as a football player. But no, I think Dexter Lawrence is tremendous. I just think, and you would think the defensive coordinator would come in here and use Dexter Lawrence a similar way to which, we did the last 2 years, because he reached all-pro status. So, no, I'm not too worried about him. It'll be interesting to see what they do with some of the personnel on this team, though, because like a guy like Isaiah, and it all depends on the defensive coordinator that we bring in, but a guy like Isaiah Simmons may not fit now, right? Because he was brought in here, a big reason why, because he fit the Wink Martindale defense. So we got to see what they do. The Chiefs way says, here's the real. If Wink was really all that, he would still be with the Ravens and probably going to the Super Bowl this year. Listen, I like Wink. The players like Wink. He's a good defensive coordinator. I'm not going to come on here and lie and say that he's a horrible defensive coordinator. No, he's a good defensive coordinator. He did some good things here. I'm not going to act like he didn't. But I'm also not going to act like the world's on fire. There's other good defensive coordinators. I don't like change, though. I will say that. And you brought in a lot of players that you felt like would fit his scheme. Coordinators move on, whether it be getting jobs or resigning or getting fired. Good coaching staffs, good coaches find a way to adjust. And we'll see if the New York Giants are able to do that. We have a lot of talented players on defense. Bobby Okereke is really good. Kayvon Thibodeau, I still think, is really good. And I think in another scheme, he may actually benefit. Dexter Lawrence, really good. Deonte Banks, I think, is going to be really good. Xavier McKinney, if we keep him, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, throughout the stream as well, being that he's the biggest pending free agent. If we keep him, really good. So we definitely have some really good pieces on this defense. I think we need to add probably another corner this offseason, whether it be free agency or the draft. Another edge would be nice. But I think we have the makings of a potentially really good defense. But a lot of it's going to depend on the defensive coordinator that we bring in. Caesar says, Wink couldn't be professional. Daboll fired his friend, BJ, for the team's sake, and Wink couldn't do the same. The old LB coach deserved to be fired. Yeah, listen. And that's what it seems like. We're reading between the tea leaves. That's speculation. We don't know that for a fact. But he came out and resigned like an hour after the fact, right? When we fired the outside linebacker coach. And can you really blame Daboll? I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau, the sacks were nice, but he wasn't as active as we were hoping he would be this year on a consistent basis. We didn't get much production from the edge rusher position, so I can't really blame them for that. So it is what it is, right? Daboll had to fire his guy with the offensive line coach, and I understand he's the head coach, but if that's why he resigned, well, see ya. We'll find another guy. It's not the end of the world. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? And Slink, thank you for being a member. He says, big question for me is, was Neal trash because he's trash or because of the coaching? Need that answered because this year he didn't get it done. Listen, I went into the year saying that's the biggest key of the season. That was the biggest key of the season because you saw what happened when he fell apart. I mean, obviously there were other contributing factors. Andrew Thomas got hurt. The guards we knew were going to struggle, but I was always of the mindset going into the year, if Evan Neal could even be an average right tackle in the National Football League this year, that was going to help the interior because you weren't going to have to pay so much extra attention to trying to help him out. You wouldn't need to leave extra blockers in as often as the New York Giants had done in the past, and it didn't work out. So Evan Neal is, again, going to be a major key going into next year, along with John Michael Schmitz and his growth, and that's why I think the biggest move this offseason in terms of importance, outside of potentially the quarterback, that's the most important position. You can't exclude that when you talk about this if they're doing that. But outside of that, is the offensive line coach. There's no doubt about it. And he's going to get the opportunity to, and again, I haven't watched the press conference, but I saw what Joe Schoen had to say about Neal in this press conference from the clips, the quotes that people posted on Twitter. And I saw what Joe Schoen said in a previous press conference. And he basically said, I'm sticking with Evan Neal in so many words. So Neal's going to be starting right tackle next year. So we got to hope as Giants fans, he takes that step. Otherwise, the line's going to continue to struggle. Sway, what's going on? Tana, did you see Dave's face when a reporter brought up the drafting of a quarterback? No, I did not, but I'm going to play it with you guys and probably in about 10 minutes. We'll watch it together. I just want to catch up with you guys, catch up with the chat, get your guys' initial thoughts of what went down today and everything else. But yeah, we'll watch it together. We'll talk about it. But yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to watch his eyes yet or anything else. I'm also not going to read too much into any of this, one way or the other. By the draft, by the free agency, I should say, I think I'll have a pretty good grasp in terms of where we're leaning this offseason. I did hear rumors today that the Bears are looking to potentially trade out of the pick. Who knows? Who knows if that's accurate or not, but we'll find out, right? It's going to be a fun offseason. There's going to be a lot to talk about. Let's see. The Chiefs way says, here's a crazy prediction. Bill Belichick returns to the Giants as the defensive coordinator. He gets back to his... Hey, listen, that would be... and thank you to everybody for being here, by the way. I appreciate all you guys, man. You guys are the best. That would be awesome to see Bill Belichick. I mean, I know he's old. I wouldn't want him to be the head coach. I think he's on the back nine. As great of a head coach as he is, but that'd be awesome to have him come back as a defensive coordinator, get to finish his days where he started with the New York Giants as the DC. I don't know if he'd want to do that, kind of taking a step back. And I don't know if Daboll would want to do that, right? Because that would kind of be a lot of added pressure to him with a legend like that. Coaching behind him, you would know that, the fan base would be clamoring to make a coaching change the first chance that they got with having a guy, as one of the coordinators behind him. So I don't know if Daboll would be into that. But I will say this, I do think Belichick is on his way out in New England. I don't think he's going to be back. LA Sports, thank you for being a member, says, hey, Chris, you think AP is a possibility? Patterson, the defensive line coach, as the DC. Is Kafka safe? Also, not sure why people are hating on Daves. The team never quit, and I love him. I love Daves. I mean, listen, I'm not saying I'm blindly in love with Daves. I'm going to pump the brakes. I was way too aggressive with Joe Judge. But listen, I have not lost faith in Brian Daboll. I still believe Brian Daboll could be the head coach of this football team when this team gets to where they need to go. He's been here for 2 years. He won Coach of the Year the first year. They won a playoff game. This year, a lot went wrong, and he was part of it. He was definitely part of it. But you got to hope as a Giants fan, he grows and gets better from it. But that, to me, is the biggest positive I take out of this year as far as Brian Daboll goes, is how hard the team fought down the stretch when they had nothing to play for. The Giants, other than pride and contracts next year, but the Giants played 4 playoff teams in the last 5 games. And almost 5. I think the Saints went 9-8. They narrowly missed the playoffs. They played the Eagles twice. They played the Packers. And, of course, they played the Rams. Those teams had everything to play for. The Giants still fought for Brian Daboll, and they were in every one of those games outside of the New Orleans Saints game. Could have easily swept the Eagles. Probably should have beaten the Rams. And they beat the Packers. And, of course, they beat the Eagles the last time. So I think that's a good sign for Brian Daboll. The team continued to fight, even after there wasn't a whole lot to play for with the injuries and the team underperforming at the beginning of the year and everything else. Cowboy MLB says, people blaming Daboll acting as if Wink doesn't have a history of parting ways with his previous team. Stop blaming Daboll and move forward. Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I'm not saying that Daboll might not have any fault in this, but I'm in complete agreement. Are you just going to ignore the history that Wink Martindale had while he was with the Baltimore Ravens when they parted ways with him there? when Harbaugh actually went to his brother at Michigan and said, I'd rather work with this guy because I don't want to work with Wink Martindale anymore, after the defense had been one of the best defenses in football for 3 or 4 years straight. They sustained some injuries the next year with cornerbacks, and they decided to move on. We're just going to ignore that. We're just going to ignore that. We're going to ignore the fact that Wink Martindale has had several head coaching interviews, and I don't know, maybe there's a reason he's never gotten a job. So I'm not saying there may not be fault on Daboll's side, but let's not act like it. Let's not just say it's all on Daboll. Like, Wink may not be easy to work with. So I know the players like working with him. I know he's a very popular head coach, but listen, Daboll's the head man in charge. Let him get his guy, and let's hope that they get this team going in the right direction next year. Bob says, loved Wink, but the way he used Kayvon sometimes was not good. Dropping in coverage was not a good idea. Let him rush 3 downs and get the other quarterback. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Kayvon. Kayvon's stats. Kayvon was a complete opposite for me from last year. I thought Kayvon's stats were misleading last year in the sense that he played better than his stats indicated, where I think he only had like 4.5 sacks, but he was a presence. Like, he had 4 or 5 games last year where he was a presence. I didn't feel that as much this year, even though the stats were better. I felt like a lot of it was empty stats. And I'm still on the Kayvon train. I still think Kayvon's going to be a very good football player for the New York Giants. But as weird as it may sound, I feel like his stats didn't really show. I don't know. I felt like he didn't grow as much of a player he didn't grow as much this year as I thought he would. I didn't feel the impact from Kayvon on a weekly basis. And hopefully, and I do think next year he's going to get better. Hell, I'm not wearing his jersey now, but I wear his jersey for half my live streams. I'm a fan. I like Kayvon, but yeah, maybe a new DC could do him good, right? Wink Martindale schemes throughout the course of his history. Kayvon was actually the first player in the history of a Wink Martindale scheme to have 10 sacks because it's a different type of defense. You get pressure more so through the scheme itself, through blitzing, deception, so on and so forth. So maybe using Kayvon more in a traditional sense could help him grow as a football player. We'll see. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kayvon, depending on the defense coordinator they bring in, takes a leap next year. Jason says, why is everyone freaking out about Wink? Those turnovers covered up how bad our defense was this past year. I believe in Dave's and Shane G-Men. Listen, the defense played relatively well. I'm not going to say it was a great defense because it wasn't. It was not. Like most of those turnovers they got came against the Patriots. They came against that 3 or 4 game stretch with DeVito. We played a bunch of horrible teams. But they did. I'm not going to say they were horrible. They played well at times, but I'm not going to act like this was a lights out defense. You got to give Dave's a chance. He's not their guy. You move on. You make the change. You hope that the next guy that comes in does a better job. That's all there is to it. Nick DeWick says, I'm very upset about the Wink situation, but happy about Dirtbag and T-Mac being fired. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're going to be happy. Dirtbag. What's up, Nick? Sometimes you're going to be happy. Sometimes you're not. You're not always going to agree with all the decisions. To me, this does not feel like it was something that Daboll wanted to do. It was something that it ended up he had to do because they didn't get along in the end. It seems that way, at least, when he fired the outside linebacker coach. Cruzon says, what's the percentage of the Giants subs that want a new quarterback? I like DJ, but I have no confidence in him staying healthy. Well, let's ask the chat. Let's ask you guys right now. Now that you know everything is where it is. I'm not going to post a poll, but everything is where it is now. You know where the Giants are. You're picking 6th. You know where we are. You know the situation of the team. You know that the offensive line needs a lot of growth. You know we have holes at the wide receiver. You know we could use another edge. And obviously, like Cruzon said, Daniel Jones this year, when more was put on his plate, did not, albeit in a limited sample size against a very difficult schedule early in the year, did not grow to the point that we were hoping for. Not even close. He regressed. Did not have a good year. He was making stupid decisions. You're now picking near the top of a draft with a relatively rich quarterback draft class. But the way things now are situated, you're probably going to have to trade up because you have number one, you're going to have Chicago. Chicago, we'll see. You know, there's been rumors they may trade out. They may go quarterback. I don't know. But Chicago's at 1. You know New England's going quarterback. You know Washington's going quarterback. So that's 2 teams. And then you could say, well, Arizona won't go quarterback. And then you could say San Diego or LA won't go quarterback. So we'll get a quarterback at 6. We'll get the 3rd. We'll get Jaden Daniels, who seems to be the consensus 3rd by most people. You don't think teams are going to look to trade up? You don't think teams are going to look to trade up to 4, to 5, to jump the Giants, knowing that they may very well take a quarterback? So if you're the Giants and you want one of these top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in this year's draft class, you're going to have to trade up. You can't just sit there and hope that the guy gets to you. So let me ask you, as Giants fans, are you there? Is that what the chat feels right now? Are you there? Are you at that point where you're like, yeah, I'm giving up the 6th pick. I'm giving up the first, second round pick we have. I'm giving up next year's first, and I'll give up a day 2 pick in a future draft, and I'll do whatever I got to do to go up and get that quarterback. Is that where you are? That's the question I have for you guys. And I think most people are going to say, yeah, do it. And I think that's what they're going to have to do if they want to go quarterback. And I don't even know if it's going to be possible. I don't know if it's going to be possible. Because if Chicago wants to trade out of 1, I do not think Chicago's going to drop back down to 6. They're not doing it. Because if I'm the Chicago Bears, I know I could trade down with 2 because Washington or whoever's at 2, Washington or New England, is going to want to make sure they get their quarterback, knowing that another team could lead them to the 1 spot. So they're going to be open to making a trade if they want a quarterback. And I could still trade down with them, get future draft capital, and still draft a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. So I don't think Chicago's dropping to 6. I don't. So then you ask yourself, well, if they drop to 3 or 4, maybe you could make a move if you want the third quarterback to go up and get it. But then you ask yourself, well, does Joe Schoen even feel that strongly about the third quarterback? So I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered this offseason. But what does the chat feel? What does the chat feel? Grim Solo says, get the guy, damn it. Go get Brock Powell. Please do not do that. Horrendous football player. I don't want him in the top 5 picks, top 6 picks. Nathan says trading up isn't worth it. We need to get the guy we want. I was done. Let's see. A lot of people want him. A lot of people want him. Want the quarterback. And I can't blame him. It's the most important position. We're picking high in the draft in a rich quarterback draft class. Can't blame people for wanting it. I just don't know if it's going to happen. It might very well may. I don't know, though. Dan says, so many players on the D overperformed, yet our defense was meh. It stands to reason that some of the players underperformed. Who are those players? On the defense this year, I think Adoree Jackson underperformed. I think Adoree Jackson had a bad year. I mean, he had a couple of good plays here and there. I think he punched out a couple of balls, but overall, I thought Adoree Jackson was bad this year. Definitely took a step back, in my opinion. Leonard Williams, albeit he wasn't here very long, he was only here for about half the season. I thought Leo underperformed this year. I thought he was going to have a much better year than he did. With the emergence of Dexter Lawrence going into this year, getting to play with him healthy, where he was kind of banged up last year. I anticipated Kayvon would take a leap. So I really thought Leo was going to take a big jump this year. Didn't see it enough from him this year while he was here. So I thought he was a little bit underwhelming this year. The linebackers were great. Like I said, Kayvon, I won't say Kayvon was disappointing, but he didn't exceed my expectations. I don't care what the stats say. He didn't exceed my expectations. I'm not going to come down on Azeez. He was hurt. Although he's always hurt. I don't think he's going to be a part of the future of this team. Pinnock definitely exceeded expectations. Like, there was a lot of bright spots. Pinnock, McFadden, Okereke, Dex met my expectations. I thought he was going to be great. He was. So there was a lot of bright spots, but there were definitely some guys that underperformed. I'm not going to act like there weren't. Let's see. Percival says, did you see the schedule for 2024? I haven't looked at it yet, but I know the divisions we're playing, right? Guys in the chat, help me out. I think we're playing the AFC North, which is a really tough division. I'll pull that up, though, throughout the stream. But we're playing the AFC North, which is a really tough division. And we're playing the NFC South, which is, at least on paper, not a division that scares me a whole lot. And then, of course, we're going to play a third-place schedule. So let me take a look at the schedule real quick. Hold on. Giants 2024 schedule. Let's see. Here we go. I'll share it with the chat. We'll go over it. We'll look at it. And again, this is way too early because you don't know what these teams are going to do in the draft. You don't know what they're going to do in free agency, yada, yada, yada. But we'll pull it up regardless. We'll have some fun. This is the Giants' schedule next year. So we've got, obviously, the divisional games at home. Cowboys, Eagles, Washington. Our other home game, we get the Saints again. Of course, we played them this year, I guess, because we must have finished in the same spot in the division because we didn't play the South this past year. But we get the Saints again, this time at home, which is good. New Orleans is typically a much harder place to play, than when they're going on the road. So that's a good thing. We get Tampa Bay. Who knows what they're going to look like next year? Are they bringing Baker back? My guess is they probably will. But I don't view them as a great team. I know they made the playoffs this year, but certainly a team that I think we have a chance to beat at home before I see what they do in the offseason. Ravens are great. They're the Super Bowl favorites right now, so that'll be tough. Obviously, Cincinnati's going to be tough with Burrow coming back. Minnesota, who knows what they're going to look like next year? Are they bringing back Cousins? Are they going to draft a quarterback? I don't know. So they're kind of a up-in-the-air type team for me, but they don't really scare me. Colts, the same thing I said about the Bucs, I kind of feel about the Colts. They're kind of a middling team, but we'll see what Anthony Richardson does next year, right? It'll be his second year, so maybe he takes a big leap when he gets an opportunity to start and if he stays healthy. On the road, Seattle, always a tough place to play. Atlanta, Carolina, yeah. Easy, should be, but you don't know. Maybe Bryce Young takes a big leap. And then you got the Browns and the Steelers. Steelers are always tough, and the Browns have a great defense. So I wouldn't say it's a cupcake schedule at all, but I don't think it's nearly as challenging as it was this past year. So hopefully the Giants can take advantage of that next year. Let's see. This year you played the 49ers. You played, and I don't think the Eagles will be as good next year, right? The Eagles, not that they were good when we played them, but I don't think they'll be an 11. The Eagles to me don't look like they're going to be a Super Bowl threat next year. But hey, things change year over year. Frank says, I've watched all of these quarterbacks. Jalen I'd take, but man, Caleb Williams, no interest in taking at all. I don't think either one is mentally tough or mature enough, especially to deal with the New York media. Hey, Frank, that's what the offseason's about. That's what the draft's about. We all formulate our opinions. We all find players we like. We all find players we don't. I like both of those players. I've always been a big fan of Caleb Williams. I personally think the knock that people take on him in terms of how he'll handle the New York media doesn't bother me too much. But I do think what I will say, Frank, I do think that's something the Giants will heavily consider for sure, especially in the New York market. So we'll see. But I'm a big fan of Caleb Williams. And I didn't get to watch a whole lot of Drake May until about 3 months ago. And then I watched 3 or 4 North Carolina games. Drake May's got all the tools, man. The guy's 6'4". He's 229. He's got a cannon for an arm. He could throw off script. I like him. I do. I like him a lot. But again, I don't think we're going to get him. I don't think we're going to be able to move to 1. And I think he's going top 2. And Washington's not trading out of that pick. So I'm leaning we're not going to get him. But I like both of those guys a lot. Jaden Daniels is the wild card because Jaden Daniels, I laughed when people were saying like 2 months ago, oh, let's just take Jaden Daniels in the second round. I'm like, that's not happening. He's going to be the Anthony Richardson of this year's draft. Not to compare them as players. They're completely different. Anthony Richardson was a guy that did not really have great collegiate success, but he was drafted based off his tools. But he was a guy that rose throughout the draft process, and a lot of it had to do with his physical skill set. Jaden Daniels, I saw, was a guy that, again, has a big-time physical skill set. He could run. He's got a big arm, and he's got the production to boot. So I expect Jaden Daniels to be a top 5, 6, 7 pick. But he's a guy that maybe can surpass one of those two guys and could go first or second overall. I wouldn't be shocked at all. A lot of it will depend on the offseason and how these teams feel. It's all going to depend on what the teams are looking for at the quarterback position. Grim Solo says, I don't think MHJ is so much better than Neighbors Adunze that it would prevent the Bears. I think he is. But I think both those guys are great, really good. I think MHJ is in another class, personally. But both those guys are really good. They're completely different type of wide receivers when you talk about Adunze and what's his name? Neighbors. Completely different type of wide receivers. So a lot of that's going to depend on how these teams feel they will fit in their offenses. But I think MHJ is in a class of his own. Personally, I think he's one of the rare wide receivers that I think warrants, if it was not as rich of a quarterback draft class as it is, he warrants a number 1 overall pick. Like, I think he's that good. But both those guys are really good. Jason says, I like 5 years, showed some pass rush ability, first edge player underweight to get 10 sacks. Sometimes it's the scheme. Listen, I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to be really good. And I think in a new scheme, he may actually be better. Let's see. Chicago already has their number 1 wide receiver. Yeah, yeah, but they don't have Marvin Harrison Jr. But yeah, they do. I call bullshit, by the way, D. And we'll see if I'm right or wrong. I could easily be wrong. All the reports say I am. All the reports say I am right now. All the rumors say I am. I think Chicago's taking Caleb Williams. I'm not buying it. I think Chicago's taking Caleb Williams. Because if you're Ryan Poles, last year, you were picking, first? They were first. You were picking first. We've now had the hindsight that you bypassed C.J. Stroud. So you let C.J. Stroud slip through your hands. He's now a top 5 quarterback, or going to be, trending that way. Now you have the opportunity to take Caleb Williams, and you're going to trade down? I don't know. When you have to pay Justin Fields a ton of money after next year, if he has a good year, you're going to have to pay him a ton of money. And you have the opportunity to start over, take Caleb Williams or Drake May or the pick of the litter. If Caleb Williams turns out to be the level of a C.J. Stroud and Justin Fields does not develop into being a top 5, 6, 7 quarterback, he's going to lose his job. So I don't know. I think he's going to draft the quarterback. I really do. I think he's going to draft the quarterback. Let's see. And Percival says, I hope the Bears make an exception for us because we helped them get Fields. I would trade 6 and next year's first and a second this year. I mean, I probably would too for one of these quarterbacks. If you're asking me, do I think it's going to happen? I don't think it is. I think the Bears are going to take the quarterback. Chris Bound says, who you got today, Michigan or Washington? I think it's going to be a great game. I'm rooting for Michigan. I've always had a likeness for Michigan, and I know everybody hates Michigan, especially after this year with the cheating allegations. If you watch my channel, you know I've always loved Harbaugh as a coach. Always had tremendous respect for him while he was with the 49ers. I've always clamored for him, for the Giants to try to hire him as a coach. So I'm rooting for Harbaugh. I hope Harbaugh wins a national championship this year. I know he's a villain and people don't like him, and a lot of people are going to be rooting for Washington, and it's the feel-good story. Both teams are undefeated. Both teams deserve to be there. Huge game for Penix. Huge game for J.J. McCarthy. So I'll definitely have my eyes on that game. I think it says 7:30. It'll probably start at 7:45. So I'll definitely check that out after the stream. But I'm looking forward to the game. I think Michigan's going to win. I think Michigan's the better football team. They're better in the trenches. They have a better offensive line, better defense, better coach. I think they're going to win. But hey, I honestly didn't think Washington was going to beat Oregon to even make the playoffs. To be honest with you, in the Pac-12 championship, they did. I probably slightly lean towards Texas in beating Washington in the first round of the playoffs. They beat them, so I think it'll be a good game. We'll see. Let's see. Let's see. Daniel Jones has no pocket presence. Daniel Jones didn't take the jump we were hoping for. Michigan got caught cheating, right? Yeah, they got caught stealing signs. In baseball, if you steal signs, you get a raise. In football, if you steal signs, you get suspended for 4 games. What's up, Charles K. Manning's popping in. Xavier's, what's going on, Michael? He says, insiders say Wink was the one who tipped off reporters there was a problem between them. Oh, you're talking about as far as Daboll and Wink? Very possible. Obviously, that was a big back and forth, right? It was Jay Glazer report on that. A few people report on that. Possible. And Philly yelled. Thank you very much for the $5 donation. I appreciate it. Do you think Harbaugh stays at college or moves to the NFL? I think he's moving to the NFL. I think he's moving to the NFL. Why would, especially if he wins tonight, if you're Harbaugh with everything that you went through this year, I would leave. I would go straight to the NFL. There's plenty of teams. There's good quarterbacks coming out in this year's draft class. There's plenty of teams picking at the top of the draft that would probably look to hire him. I think he's leaving for the NFL. Let's see. Blue Dragonfly says Antonio Pierce to replace Wink. See, now I saw a lot of people say that on Twitter, and I haven't been able to keep up with the Raiders coaching situation. Did the Raiders let go of Antonio Pierce? Because obviously he was the interim head coach. Did they let go of Antonio Pierce? I missed it. If they did, I thought he did a really good job there. I thought he was going to get to keep the job. So everybody's been saying that, but if I'm the Raiders, I keep Antonio Pierce. No. Yeah, so they didn't fire him, right? So I guess why would, if that's accurate and so they haven't announced if he's the head coach or not. Okay. Yeah, obviously he has to get fired for that to even become a possibility, right? The Raiders have to fire him. So the Raiders will probably wait to see if a guy like Harbaugh becomes available. But I thought Pierce did a really good job there. I wouldn't be surprised if Pierce gets a head coaching job somewhere else if the Raiders were to let go of him. I thought he did a really good job there. Let's see. Chargers job is good. Yeah, they already have a ready-made quarterback. Makes sense. Dexter Lawrence sounds pissed on Twitter that Wink left. Does it? What did Dexter say? Let me take a look. What did Dexter say? Let's see what Dexter said. These guys on Twitter, man. This guy is such a troll, but he makes me laugh. Let me show you this. Hold on. These guys on Twitter, man. This guy Evan is so funny. He's definitely a troll, but he makes me laugh. Dexter Lawrence next season without Wink. Oh, this guy's a lunatic. Let me see if I can find Dexter Lawrence's there. Let me see what he had to say. You're allowed to think you're cool, but that's not Dexter Lawrence. Never mind. What's Dexter Lawrence's Twitter handle? I know I follow him. I'm just so bad on Twitter. What's Dexter Lawrence's Twitter handle? Let's see. Let's go talk to Carl Banks. What's going on, man? Who are some good? What's up, O-Dog, man? Thanks for popping in. Sorry I'm late. What's up, James, man? Thanks for popping in the show. You know what? I'm going to play the press conference now because I literally have not gotten a chance to watch it yet. So I want to see what Daboll had to say. So we're going to play that now. Yeah, X, exactly, Stubby. I'm going to play it now, and we'll watch it with each other. And, I'll pause it. You accept it? Oh, I went right past it, Diggy? What's up, Diggy? Good to see you, man. Hold on. I'll go back and find it then. Hold on. I'm so bad on Twitter. I'm old, man. That's why I had to take a break on Twitter. I can't figure it out. What did Dexter Lawrence have to say? I mean, he's got the check mark, but that ain't Dexter Lawrence. Oh, he's right here, maybe. Oh, there he is. See, Dexter's got to get a check mark, man. I got it now. I'll share it. He's got to get a check mark, man. I got it. All right, let's see what he had to say. Dexter Lawrence hasn't even tweeted today. The last time he tweeted was January 3rd. Maybe he had a reply. Let me look. What was his likes? Dexter Lawrence hasn't even tweeted today. What am I missing, guys? He didn't even tweet today. Yeah, you could pay for the. I know it's like $5 or something. Yeah, the last time he tweeted was January 3rd, guys. But yeah, let me play the press conference for you guys. I'm curious to watch it myself. See if we pick up on anything. I don't think there's going to be much to pick up on though in an end of the year presser. I'm just going to mute my mic and we'll pop in every now and again to talk on what they had to say. I just want to make sure. Let me know in the chat if you can hear it as I play it.
Couple things here, and then we'll open up to questions. Made 2 staff changes this morning. Moved on from Bobby Johnson and from Thomas McGahee. I want to thank those guys for what they've done the last 2 years. This is the hard part of the job. Have a lot of respect for them. Just felt we're going to move in a different direction. Not going to add anything to it. This is a private conversations. But I do respect both of those guys and what they've done the last 2 years, their commitment to the team, their work ethic, but wanted to make a change. So, again, those are private conversations. I'm not going to elaborate on any of it. Yeah, we've been well, my expectation is Wink and Kafka will both be back. So those are 2 of the changes we made this morning, but there's still conversations that are going to be had. We've only been here for a short time, but those were 2 of the guys.
So that right there is like where a lot of people on Twitter were like saying like that wasn't a good look for Daboll because Daboll during the press conference came out and said he expects Wink, Wink. We'll start with because Wink's the guy we're talking about. That Wink, he expects Wink to be back, and then we find out 4 or 5 hours later that Wink resigns. So part of you, I think a lot of people felt like Daboll was kind of putting the pressure on Wink to come back there, and. It doesn't make him look good that he resigned just 4 or 5 hours later, but it is what it is, man. The guys clearly couldn't get along. You heard rumors throughout the course of the year. If you're a head coach and you don't get along with your coordinator, you move on. And obviously that's what happened. We don't know all the behind the scenes stuff, so on and so forth. So they elected to part their ways.
In the morning that I spoke with. So other than that, again, appreciate the way the guys finished and competed yesterday. And we had an off-season meeting leading into the off-season just a little while ago with the staff and the players and the coaches and all the administrators. So it was a good year-end meeting. They're meeting now with their offense and defense respectively, position coaches. Joe and I will have some meetings here with the rookie class, with the second-year.
All right, I saw this comment and I laughed. But Bricks Nation, I'm assuming you're talking about the phones that are on the table. Those phones aren't Daboll's. Those phones, I'm pretty sure, are like reporters' phones. Like they're recording him, to what he has to say. So I don't think that's Daboll, like checking his Twitter account. So don't get on Daboll for that, man. People get on Daboll for a lot. Don't get on him for that. But let's get back to it.
Class with the UFA class after this conference here. So Other than that, open it up to any questions. Well, again, that's a good question. It's something that we'll sit down and talk about as a staff, and we'll work through that.
Brian, what went into your thinking with deciding that Mike and Wink will both return?
Yeah, it's my expectation that they're going to come back. I think they're good coaches, so be good to have some continuity and bring them back. I know it's like, Wink talks about this as a destination place and things like that. It's good. I appreciate how hard they work, their commitment to the team. So that's my plan.
Have you had conversations with them about that? Because I know you said last week you hadn't had conversations with people.
Yeah, no, not yet. I haven't talked to those guys. I've talked to the guys that I've let go, but that's my expectation, and that's my plan.
Would it be your expectation that Mike returns in the same role as play calling?
Yeah, we'll talk. Those are conversations we'll have here over the next few months of what direction we'll go, and we'll make those decisions as we do a full evaluation.
Joe, I'm sure you saw last week that Saquon said he hopes in his exit meeting you guys shoot him straight. Is a second franchise tag a viable option for him, or is it get a long-term deal done or free agency?
Yeah, again, Saquon and I will talk about that. That's a tool we have at our disposal. It wasn't when we redid his deal before he came to camp, that wasn't taken out of that deal. It wasn't a, hey, we'll do this, but no franchise tag. So that's an option we have on the table. We'll have those conversations. I'm not saying we will or we won't. A lot of those conversations will be had, over the next month or so.
We know what that means from last offseason. If Joe Schoen says that's a tool we have at our disposal, he's telling Saquon we may use it. I hope the Giants don't use the tag. Personally, I wouldn't be upset if they do, because it would mean we get another year of Saquon Barkley. But as much as I love Saquon, man, I think I felt bad for Saquon last year. If I'm the Giants, I let Saquon test the market. And if Saquon is able to get a big deal, I let him go. As much as I love Saquon, as much as I want him back, and if Saquon's market's not as high as some may think, and he's willing to come back here for something that Joe Schoen thinks is reasonable, I would want to do it. But that would be my approach. I don't think I'd want to give Saquon Barkley $12 million a year guaranteed off the year we just had. Now, he's 27. That's what I would do. I would let him test the market. If a team's willing to give him 3 years, 36, 3 years, $40 million, I love you, Saquon. I hope you're successful there. If the market's lower than a lot of people think, and you could bring him back for 2 years, 20, something like that, with maybe, something somewhat reasonable for for what the Giants feel is reasonable for where they are at currently as a franchise, I would love that. I hope it does happen. I hope he retires a Giant. But for me, I don't think it's a good idea to tag Saquon again. That's just my personal opinion. But let me just read this real quick. EI says Wink to Philly. I hope not. That would be I wouldn't like that, especially being that he coached here and he knows our players. So hopefully that won't be the case. I mean, it certainly could be. Their defense was horrible down the stretch. They'll be looking for one. Hopefully not. But from what I read, I think Dan Duggan actually posted it right before I went live. From what I read, Duggan said that the Giants, he's still under contract. So the Giants would have to allow him to, if he wanted to go to the Eagles, they could easily block it. And I'm going to be honest. If I'm the Giants, I let Wink get employment somewhere. But if I have the power to not allow him to go to the Eagles, I think I do it. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they elect to do. I don't think he's going to be able to go to the Eagles. Zach says, well, we're 2 for 3 on proper staff moves so far. Well, undeniably, at least the 2 that you agree with, I think every Giant fan would agree with you. The third one is up in the air. We'll see, but obviously most people don't like it as of now. H50 says, Wink, head coach command. I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job. I mean, I'll never say never. I'll never say never. He certainly could get a head coaching job, but I don't know. Like, the defense was okay. He's older. He's been passed up for other head coaching jobs in the past. The NFL is trending towards being an offensively driven league. You look at most, not to say all, DeMeco Ryans, I think, should win Coach of the Year. He was a defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. But most head coaching hires in today's day and age are trending towards the offensive side of the ball and younger. I don't think Wink is going to be the most desirable head coach, but hey, if he gets a head coaching job, more power to him. Matter of fact, no. How does that rule work? I think you have to be a minority to get the draft pick, right? Yeah, I don't think we would get a draft pick if Wink got ascension. We would, however, a report came out today, not that I'm rooting for this, I hope he stays with the Giants, but a report came out today that Brandon Brown, the Giants' assistant general manager, who we brought over from the Eagles, who by all accounts is doing a really good job, is being brought in for an interview to be the general manager for the Carolina Panthers. We would get a comp pick for that if he were to get that job. I think somebody in the chat let me know. I think it's either a second or a third. It's either a second or a third round comp pick. No, I don't think it's a second. It must be a third. It's a third round comp pick if he were to get a job with the Carolina Panthers, and I would assume it would be in the year 2025. But let's get back to it.
Joe, how much does Daniel's timeline for recovery affect what direction you might go with quarterback? Do you have like a cutoff date where you say, okay, if he's not at this point by this state, we go draft or, free agency or anything like that?
Yeah, I think, like I said, during the bye week, I think ultimately we have to do something, like I said, whether it's the draft or a free agent, just because, Tyrod's contract's up. We have Tommy who's under contract, and then Daniel's injury, and the return to play and the uncertainty there. So, when free agency starts, the draft, whichever avenue we decide to take, we will address the position.
How much will your injury history overall just like factor into like the future of that position? Like, do you have to take that into consideration?
Absolutely.
Do you feel like you can build a team around a quarterback who has that injury history now, with 2 neck injuries and now a torn ACL?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's football and guys get hurt. I mean, you can't always predict it. I mean, I think, guys that had previous injuries.
He answered that pretty quick. Jordan Renan said, he basically said, do you think you could build a team around a quarterback that has had the injury history that Daniel Jones has had? Joe Schoen said, yes. But he did say again, when Patty asked him, are you going to address the quarterback position in some way, shape or form this offseason? He also said yes, which is pretty obvious. I mean, right now, the only guy under contract is DeVito and Jones. Tyrod may be back. Who knows? Or maybe they could sign another veteran quarterback. And there's a lot of ways that they could go. They could go the veteran route via the backup. They could go the draft route, whether it be early first round or, day 2, day 3. That we'll see. But I definitely think they're going to address the quarterback some way, shape, or form. The question is, how do they do it? Are they aggressive? Do they go up and get that guy, or do they kind of bring in a project guy, late day 2, early day 3, or bring in a veteran to compete with Daniel Jones while he's coming back from injury? So we'll see. He's talking about building around Penix. There you go. He's got an injury history. All right, let's get back to it.
There's some, you got to look at the injuries individually and what they were, how they were caused. But, I got a lot of faith in our training staff as well. So again, hopefully he'll be back for week 1. Again, we don't have a crystal ball here, but, we'll continue to build the team the way we see best.
So is it out of the question that Tyrod comes back?
No, it's not out of the question. Yeah, we'll talk to all the UFAs, like Dave said, and we'll have conversations with them. And again, the representatives, by the time we get to the combine, we'll usually circle up with those guys. So yeah, it's not out of the question. I thought he played well for us.
Joe, what is your overall message to the fans here at the end of the season? And
Here's what I will say. And I'm curious to see what you guys think, if you guys agree with my opinion or don't. And by no means am I saying this is like a foregone conclusion if this were to happen. But if the Giants were to bring back Tyrod Taylor, I would think that would be a clear sign for me that it is much less probable that they're going to draft a quarterback early in this year's first round draft. I'm not saying they won't, but I think it makes it much less likely if they were to bring back Tyrod Taylor, because the way I look at it is, well, at that point, you're spending pretty significant money on a backup. Tyrod's going to get a decent contract. I mean, you look around the league this year, starting quarterbacks got hurt all around the league. Backup quarterbacks are more valuable than they've been in a really long time, right? You look at what Joe Flacco's been able to do with the Browns, all these injuries that took place at the position. So, and the market goes up. Like, Tyrod Taylor's going to get probably $8 million, I would guess. He's going to get a decent contract to be a backup quarterback. So, if you're bringing back Tyrod Taylor and you already have Jones and DeVito under contract, of course DeVito could play on the practice squad. But if you're going to pay pretty decent money for a backup quarterback, I think that leans more towards we're probably not drafting a quarterback early in this year's draft. Of course, they may not sign Tyrod Taylor. He just talked on the possibility that he may bring him back. Let's see. Jimmy, what's going on, man? He says, gotta wonder if Daboll was sparing himself public backlash by saying I said the same thing, or at least I thought I tried to hint that I thought the same thing, that he kind of wanted to make Wink look like the bad guy because he knew it was coming and they were fighting. I kind of could see where people are coming from in that. Then proceeding to pull the plug on two. Pull the plug on two of Wink's guys for knowing Wink would like, yeah, maybe, Jimmy. But hey, if I can't fault Daboll, though. And Daboll's the head coach. He's got to make the tough decisions. You're not always going to make everybody happy. We'll see if it's the right decision. But I think as a fan, I got to allow him to make the decision and have to see how it plays out. If he feels like they needed to make a change at that part of the defense, which I can't really blame him, our outside linebackers were not good this year. There were a lot of other parts that were, but our outside linebackers were not good this year. He had to sacrifice the guy that he thought should be the offensive line coach. He didn't cry about it. He made the change. He brought him over from Buffalo. So that's his, it is what it is. So I'm not going to kill Daboll for it. But yeah, the way that he worded it, yeah, I can see where people are coming from with that. Clock says DJ 2 years, Bill Dio, Arch in 3 years. That's what a lot of people are going to be saying. A lot of people want Arch Manning. We'll see. We'll see. Arch hasn't even played a college game yet. I know I saw the end of the Texas game during the regular season. I think he came in for the last drive, but he didn't attempt to throw. Chris says, who do you personally want as the DC? Now, to be completely honest with you, Chris, I haven't given it a whole lot of thought. I have not given it a whole lot of thought. Once I start to see the potential candidates, I will give you my opinion. I don't even know. Guys in the chat, let me know. It's so fresh. Has there even been rumored candidates that the New York Giants could potentially be interested in? I haven't been able to keep up with it. Like, it literally just happened like 2 hours ago. So I don't, once I get the guys that I hear that we're interested. Obviously Frazier is going to be a popular name, right? Leslie Frazier, former DC with Buffalo, coach with them. I'm sure he's going to be a guy they bring in for an interview. If they bring him in, they bring him in. He's, that could certainly be one of the guys. That will definitely be one of the guys I would think they'll bring in for an interview. I don't think they'll bring in Belichick. I don't think they'll bring in Belichick for the reasons that I expressed earlier. I don't think they'll bring in Belichick. Ron Rivera, interesting. Wouldn't hate it as a defensive coordinator. I don't love him as a head coach, but I wouldn't hate it as a defensive coordinator. I don't know if he'd want to take that job, but he was a good defensive coordinator while he was with the Chargers. Wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate Ron Rivera. Patterson, you give him a promotion from within. I think I'd rather a guy that has DC experience personally. I want to keep Patterson where he's strongest at, which is the defensive line. Brandon Staley, I hate him so much as a head coach. A lot of people have mentioned him. I saw him on Twitter. I don't know his name, but the Michigan DC, Michigan's coaching staff in general is going to be popular, right? Their offensive line coach, they got a great offensive line. That's going to be popular. Officer Richie says, sup, bro? How do you think the offseason will look? Obviously, we're going to have a lot of turnover with the coaching staff. I think we've figured that out, right? Real quick, we're going to have a whole new coaching staff outside of course, our head coach and maybe our offensive coordinator. We'll see. We saw what the word expected meant today. So we'll see. We'll see if the expected word carries through with Mike Kafka. But a lot of turnover with the coaching staff, new O-line coach, new DC, new special teams coordinator. So that'll be, I guess, interesting to see who they bring in. And the draft, right? That's going to be a major question mark. And I don't think we're going to have a grasp on what they're going to do in the draft until March, when we really start to see patterns develop, when we start to see what they're doing at the combines, when we start to see who they're signing in free agency. But here's what I'll say. I was right last year in terms of the position that I thought that they would attack if they were going to spend big in free agency. When I just looked at the strength of last year's draft and when I looked at the strength of the free agency class, I thought that they would spend, if they were going to spend big on one position, I thought it would be a linebacker. That's what they did. I don't know the name. I think we're going to spend pretty big money on an edge rusher. I do. I think we're going to spend pretty big money on an edge rusher in free agency. I think that will be our one big free agent acquisition. I think it'll be an edge rusher because I think they're going to want to give Kayvon help on the outside, and they're going to want to really get this pass rush to where they think it should be. I think we're going to sign an edge rusher. That's my prediction in free agency. Maybe a solid interior offensive lineman. And then in the draft, I mean, who knows? I mean, obviously quarterback's a possibility. Wide receiver. If we don't go quarterback, I think we're going to go wide receiver. And listen, if we don't go quarterback and we go wide receiver, if you get a guy like a Neighbors, I would love Marvin Harrison, but he ain't full in the 6. If you get a Dunze, Neighbors, if you get a guy like that, I look at this wide receiving core, guys, and I'm excited for the future. I never got really hyped for Kadarius Toney after I saw him on the field. People I thought were going way overboard with that one game against Dallas. I like Wan'Dale Robinson. I think Wan'Dale Robinson is a really nice piece for this wide receiving core. And I hope Slayton's back, by the way. I hope we extend Darius Slayton to a reasonable extension. You know, they have the option to cut him. They could save $6.5 million. But if you could get Slayton for like an extension of 3 years, 24, 3 years, 27, where you can move some money around, I think he's a solid wide receiver in this league. The market's only going to go up. I hope they bring back Slayton. And you got Wan'Dale, Slayton. If you could bring in a guy like a Neighbors or an Adunze and those guys hit in the first round, all of a sudden, you got a pretty solid wide receiving core. So I could certainly see them going that route in the first round if they don't go quarterback. And obviously, we got to try to fix this freaking offensive line. Don't necessarily have to draft one in the first round, but you got to attack it in the draft. Let's see. Hyatt too. Of course, I should have mentioned Hyatt. He's a potential, nice piece to this core as well. Although I'm not as sold on Hyatt as some Giants fans are. I think he could be really good. I'm not saying but I'm not as sold as some Giants fans are. MY Giants 26 says, throw the bag at Dwayne. There's going to be a lot of names. I'm going to tell you the guy I want. I don't know if it's realistic. It's probably not. What's up, Skeptic, man? Thanks for popping in the stream. In free agency, all you got to do is watch my draft reaction. You know who I want in free agency this year. Josh Allen. The guy that most Giant fans wanted on draft night when we drafted Daniel Jones. He would cost so much, though. I don't expect that to happen. He had 17.5 sacks this year. The guy's 26 years old. But that's what I would love. William, man, thanks for popping in the stream. And thank you so much, man, for the $2 donation, man. I appreciate it, buddy. I would spend it guard, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt. I think they will. I think they will sign a guard. I think if they're going to spend big, though, it'll be an edge. Bryce Huff. I've seen a lot of people mention him. Obviously, he had a good year this year for the Jets. He's a free agent. Possibility he would be cheaper. Certainly a guy that we could look at. And I think he said he wanted to stay in New York. The superior Josh. I mean, Josh Allen, the quarterback's pretty good too. Let's see. But let's get back to the rest of the press conference, guys. H50 says, how many coaches positions are open for the New York Giants? You've got the offensive line coach, you got the special teams coach, you've got the outside linebackers coach, you've got the defensive coordinator. I would think the whole defensive staff could potentially be up for grabs. I mean, I hope not. I hope Patterson stays. I think Patterson will stay. And hopefully the DB's coach stays. I think he's good too. But at least 3 or 4 positional coaches on the defensive end. The offensive line coach, I am leaning Kafka is going to be back. We'll see. It sounds he will be. But yeah, it's at least 4 or 5 positional coaches coordinator and at least 3 or 4 positional coaches are available. Oh, running back coach as well. Yeah, he left too. What's up, John, man? Good to see you, man. AP, a new DC, if he doesn't get I would love it. I would love it, John. I just don't know if listen, I think Antonio Pierce deserves a head coaching job. Whether it's with the Raiders or whether it's with somebody else, may not get it. because there's a lot of attractive names at Harbaugh, right? He's going to be the guy that everybody's talking about. But, yeah, dude, bring him back. Antonio Pierce is one of my favorite Giants of all time. Probably one of my top 10, definitely one of my top 10 favorite Giants of all time. I think the leader on that team, by the way. Everybody always talks about Eli, and Eli's my favorite player of all time. I'm wearing his jersey right now. I think Antonio Pierce was the leader of that football team. That 2017, the team that won the Super Bowl in 2008. Strahan, of course, a leader too. Jacobs was a leader, but Pierce to me was always the guy that I thought of as like the most, the vocal leader of that football team. I remember if I'm not mistaken, I remember when they arrived on the for the Super Bowl on the plane, he was the guy that organized them all being dressed in black, all black, as if they were going to a funeral for the New England Patriots. He just always seemed like the leader of that team. I would love Antonio Pierce to come back. Philly L says, how about T. Higgins? I don't think we're going to sign T. Higgins. And yeah, hit the like button, guys. I appreciate that, John. Yeah, hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell. If you guys are here, I'm definitely going to be, hanging out with you guys a lot this offseason. I'll definitely have some content up. It's going to be a fun offseason. Listen, T. Higgins is a really good wide receiver. I don't know, and I've said this before, and by no means am I going to be upset if we sign him. He's young, he's talented. I don't know how well T. Higgins fits this offense. I don't know. I don't know. I would much sooner, and I don't think he's available, but I would much sooner rather get a guy like a Brandon Ayuk than a T. Higgins. I don't know. I don't love the fit for this offense. Let's see. But I think he's really good. Won't be upset if we get him. GMet26 says, sorry, just got on, but what about the O-line in the draft? We're going to attack it. I just don't think it's going to be in the first round. Like, I think Joe Schoen has given you enough hints that we're not going tackle in the first round at this point. I think it's clearly obvious. And we're not going to take a guard in the first round, especially that early. So I think we will draft line. I just don't think it'll be in the first round. He's basically come out and said Evan Neal's going to be the starting right tackle. We believe in the guy. So that says, okay, well, we're not drafting Joe Alt then. We're not going tackle. So we will draft linemen. I'd be stunned if we don't. Maybe second round, third round. We're definitely going to draft linemen, but not early on. And we certainly could address it in free agency as well. Let's see. MY Giants 26 says Okereke was a beast. Yeah, Okereke's been a beast all year. The most amazing stat from this entire year for the New York Giants, Okereke and McKinney did not miss a single snap. That's the most amazing stat to me this year for the New York Giants. They did not miss a single snap. You think about that in today's NFL. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's a good thing that it shows how durable those players are and how important they are to this football team. But the fact that the Giants needed those guys out to be out there every single snap speaks to the lack of depth on this roster. I don't love that they had to play every single snap, right? You want your players to be as fresh as possible throughout the course of the game, but insane that guy played every snap this year. And Clock says first try, but second arch. First try 0, but second arch 13 play 91 yard. What are you talking about? Arch Manning? I don't know what he said. First try 0, but second 91 yard touchdown. Why am I not picking up on this? What's up, Christopher, man? Thanks for popping in the stream, man. What's going on, man? Arch 13 play 91 yard touchdown. Maybe somebody in the chat will tell me. I don't know. Pichu says 0 passes. Oh, Arch. He didn't throw. If you're talking about Arch Manning's drive, he didn't attempt to pass in that. On that drive, he didn't attempt to pass. Let's see. Kate Pichu says I'm a little late to the news. What's the big update? A lot of Oh, then I missed it, Clock. My mistake. If he did, I saw, I guess, what was his first drive. He must have got another drive later in the season. I thought it was his only drive of the season. It was very late in the year. I remember when they put him in the lineup, and they didn't throw. So, okay. So I must have missed that then. Okay. He did have another drive later in the year. My mistake. Pichu says, I'm a little late to the news. What's the big update? The Giants have had a ton of a ton of turnover on the coaching staff today. They fired their offensive line coach, which we all expected. They fired their special teams coach, which I think we all expected. They fired their defensive coordinator, which was kind of a 50-50 proposition with Wink Martindale. Well, they didn't fire. He resigned. I shouldn't use the term fired. He resigned. Who else? They fired the outside linebackers coach. So it's a lot of turnover today on the coaching staff. Let's see. Hyatt is just Wink quit is the biggest. Yeah. And H5000 says a new quarterback guarantees nothing. I mean, a new quarterback is never guaranteed. Lord Commander says, Chris, thanks for making the Giants season bearable. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you guys for making the Giants season bearable. Frank, there's plenty of names. We talked about it earlier in the stream, but I'm gonna kind of wait till I see the guys that we're bringing in. I mean, Ron Rivera was a name thrown out. He's been a good defensive coordinator before. Michigan's DC is a popular name that everybody's throwing out. Antonio Pierce is going to be popular, obviously, with his days with the New York Giants, the good coaching job he did with the Raiders. If he becomes available, he's currently interviewing for their head coaching job. So there's going to be a lot of names that are thrown about, but I will wait to reserve judgments until I actually see the guys we're bringing in. And then, I'll say, all right, well, I think I'd want that guy, but I kind of want to wait to see who they're bringing in before I say, this is the guy that I want. Pete, what's going on, man? Feeling super discouraged, and it has nothing to do with 6 wins. Draft order fallout, the way Wink left, his opinion of Daboll on the way out. Team feels on the downturn again. If we trade up, maybe it'll light that fire in me again. Go Knicks and Rangers. Pete, man, first off, thank you so much, man, for the incredible generosity. I saw somebody in the chat say, Tana, I'll just let you guys know this now so you guys know to show up. Diet Ghost said, I'd love Tana to do Knicks games, especially now. I'm going to be doing Knicks games. I'm not going to do every one. But starting this week, I got to look at the Knicks schedule, and I got to look at my work schedule and everything else. But starting this week, I'm going to be doing probably 2 Knicks games a week. I love doing those. It's just during the football season with my job and everything else. I work a lot of times till like 6 o'clock, so I'm tired. But I want to do some Knicks games now that the football season's over. So I'll probably do two Knicks games a week. I'll pick out the games that I feel are the better games, and I'll do them. But yeah, I'm going to be doing them. Peter says, feeling super discouraged, and it has nothing to do with the 6 wins. Draft order fallout, the way Wink left. Yeah. Listen, I understand the frustration. I think a lot of Giants fans looked at the silver lining of this season after everything fell apart as a season where, okay, we could end up with, let me get rid of this, by the way, because I'm talking to you guys at this point. I don't think there was much to come out of this press conference. So I'm not even going to bother with the rest of it. Yeah, I think a lot of people looked at the silver lining of this season after everything fell apart was, well, at least we'll get a top 3 pick in a rich quarterback draft class, and we could go and get that guy that could turn this franchise around. So I understand where fans are at with the disappointment. I was always of the mindset of I'm indifferent to if they win or lose. I don't control it. I know that the players and the coaches are going to go out there and they're going to try to win the football game. So it is what it is. I understand the benefit, Pete, of losing once we got to a certain point in the season, but I don't control it. And by the same token, if they go out there and they win 2 games, all of a sudden you're looking at Brian Daboll potentially being on the hot seat. So those guys got to go out there. They got to try to compete. They got to try to win games. I'm not going to be super bummed out of the fact that we ended up getting the 6th pick. But I listen, I understand where you're coming from. As far as the Wink and the Daboll thing today, yeah, it was definitely a sloppy look the way that it was handled, and maybe Daboll will take it as a learning experience. Probably should have talked before he said I expect him to be back if he knew that there was at least a decent chance he would resign, or maybe he should have at least told Wink before he came out and said that publicly that, listen, I'm going to be moving on from your outside linebackers coach. What do you think about this? Now, who knows? Maybe he did say that, and maybe he was trying to make Wink look bad. We'll never know. That's probably not going to come out unless Wink says it. But hey, Daboll's the man in charge. I'm going to let him make the decisions, and Wink's a good DC, but I don't think he's not replaceable. The Ravens replaced him, and they have they have the best team in football right now. So we'll see who the Giants bring in, and we'll see what this defense looks like next year. And it's not like the defense was incredible. I mean, they were very good in terms of creating turnovers. They led the league, but nobody ever talks about that's using that as a reason as to why the defense was so great. Okay, well, how come last year I didn't hear anybody say that they only had 6 interceptions? They only created 16 turnovers all year. So I think he's a good DC. I think he got a lot out of certain players on this team, Dexter Lawrence being a major one of them. But hey, you move on. Find another good DC. I think you can. There's plenty of them. Team building the downturn again. If we trade up, maybe it'll light that fire in me again. We'll see, Pete. I'm excited for the offseason. Whether they go quarterback and trade up or whether they get a wide receiver, I just want them to keep building. Obviously, I think the most exciting move, the thing that will make the fan base overly excited, is if they get a quarterback. I think most of the fans are done with Daniel Jones, and I understand it. They look around the league, they see these elite quarterbacks. They see that this year, okay, I got my answer. A lot of fans are like, I gave this guy a chance. He showed growth last year in a really bad situation. He got to come back in a good offensive scheme, and he got hurt again. He laid an egg. Wasn't playing well when he was out there. Didn't show that he was able to grow as a quarterback. I understand where fans are. It's the most important position, and they feel like they're at a dead end. But, it is what it is. They also got to like a quarterback. So we'll see. We'll see what they feel about the quarterbacks in this draft class. Donovan says, Daboll should have let Wink have the last slice. And H50 says, Belichick takes his over head coach. Daboll moves to OC. Patrick Graham, DC. Joe Judge, special teams. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think Belichick's going to be the head coach, and there's no way Daboll would accept. People brought that up a couple of years ago when we ended up firing Pat Shurmur, because obviously you wanted continuity, because Shurmur was a big part of the reason why we hired Daniel Jones. And people used to say, well, why don't they just demote Pat Shurmur, make him the OC, and bring in the head coach? It doesn't work that way. Daboll's not going to be like, oh, yeah, just demote me. I won Coach of the Year a year ago. Just demote me. Make me the offensive coordinator. It's not going to happen. I don't see that happening. I don't see Belichick coming here as the defensive coordinator either. K. Pichu, what's going on, man? Dang, that's a lot. Who do you think are going to take their spots? Because to be honest, I don't know who we can get that will be a massive improvement. Well, I hope you think that we could get a massive improvement for the offensive line coach. Helen Keller would be a massive improvement for the offensive line coach. And, she can't see, but at least we wouldn't commit penalties. So I would hope you would think we get an improvement there. I would hope you would think we get an improvement with the special teams coordinators. Our special teams have not been good for the last five years or so. But I think you're talking about mainly the defensive coordinator. And listen, there's a lot of names that are going to be thrown out, and we'll see. We'll see who the New York Giants eventually end up, bringing in for interviews. I think Antonio Pierce is an intriguing name if he doesn't take the Raiders job. That'd be fun. We'll see. We'll see. But I think there's plenty of guys out there that could do a good job. The question I have and what I worry about is you brought in a lot of players that fit Wink Martindale's defense, right? You drafted Deontay. I mean, I think Deontay Banks could fit in a lot of defensive schemes, but you drafted corners that could play man press. Now you kind of have to get a defensive coordinator that is of a similar mindset from that standpoint, where you want aggressive corner play. Guys that play up at the line of scrimmage don't play so much zone. That's a big reason why you drafted Deontay Banks. So I guess that could be a concern you could certainly have, is there's guys on this team that were drafted to fit in a scheme similar to Wink. So we'll see. We'll see who they end up bringing in. But I'll worry about it once they bring the guy in, and we'll see how he does. But I'm not going to get bent out of shape that we lost Wink. I mean, I'm not happy, but I think we could find somebody to do the job. John says, if the Giants like McCarthy, you take him at 6. No, I'm a big fan of McCarthy. I wouldn't take him at 6. But hey, if he's their guy, he's their guy. Like, I'm not going to scream. If they take if they take Penix at 6, who I personally don't love at 6, I don't love McCarthy at 6, even though I like him, like I've said. If he's their guy, he's their guy. I'm not going to scream about it. Okay, that's your guy. You're putting your in for this guy. You know a lot more about him than I do. So hopefully they're right. And I actually like McCarthy more than most people. I haven't shied away from that. But if I'm McCarthy, and I guess we'll see how he does tonight in the national championship. If I'm McCarthy, I stay in school. And we'll see, because if Harbaugh leaves, he may not, because, I mean, he's losing his coach. So, and he's coming up a national championship. But I look at the strength of this quarterback class, and you're risking it here if you're a guy like J.J. McCarthy. A guy like Penix doesn't have an option. He's a senior. He has to come out. J.J. McCarthy's a guy that's kind of viewed as a project, where he's got a lot of good traits. He's got a strong arm, I think, much stronger than some people give him credit for. But there's some things to his game he's got to work on. You could come back to the draft next year when it's not as strong of a draft class. If I was his agent, that's probably would be my advice. But I don't think he's going to go 6. I could see him going mid to late first round. That's where I think he'll go. Max says, Daboll meant to say he expects him back. Also fired his friend. Wink wanted to get fired for contract reasons, so they called his bluff. If he wanted out, this is the way it was going down. Oh, that. Yeah. So you think the Giants did this intentionally so he couldn't just sign with a team like the Eagles? Wink probably would have done it too. Wink would have done it too. Hey, if they block him from going to the Eagles, I'll be happy. I don't want a guy that has as much familiarity with this football team as he does going and coaching for one of our divisional rivals. G-Man26 says, big fan of I do not know enough about. I don't know. I'll have to look into him. I do not know him. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I do not know him. The running back. Oh, I've watched Notre Dame games, but again, I have not watched enough of him. I'll look at him, but there's a lot. What's his name? There's a couple of really good running backs in this draft. The kid from Oregon is really good. Bucky, he's really good. He's impressed me when I've watched him. Peter says, on a different note, I think Deontay Murray could be the last piece for this team to go to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. His defense size scoring is elite. If we don't have to give up too many picks, Leon Rose has to pull the trigger. I like the deal. I mean, I'm with you. At this point, Pete, and I'm leaning that's going to be the guy they're going to target because that's been all the rumors. And I think the Knicks are going to try to make a move this season. I don't know if it'll happen, but at this point, if you're the Knicks, you push your chips in the middle of the table. You got Jalen Brunson. The guy's not young. He's 27. It's not like he's old, but he's not young. You got Julius Randle. He's not young, right? OG Anunoby's not a baby. And you got all these draft picks you accumulated. The Knicks got to go for it, man. I don't know if it's going to be before this year ends or if it's going to be next year, but I definitely expect the Knicks to go out there and make a move. And I think about a guy like Murray. He'd be a great fit, right? Really good defensive player. You pair him with Anunoby, with Thibodeau. That's nice, man. The Knicks could do some damage with a roster like that. I don't know what they'd have to give up, but yeah, they certainly have to surrender a lot of those first-round picks because they don't have a whole lot to trade outside of that now in terms of players because they traded Barrett and they traded quickly. Chris, what's going on, man? I hope Wink's resignation doesn't derail my guy Simmons from returning with the Giants next season. It could. I'm gonna prepare you for that, Chris. I know a lot of people. Love love Isaiah Simmons, and he's a fun player to watch. I don't think he's gonna be back. And now I guess I have to see who the defensive coordinator is, but I think he was brought in here specifically. At least the main reason why he was brought here is because of how well he fit what Wink Martindale was looking to do. Now, maybe they'll bring in a DC who has a similar scheme that they feel like he'll fit really well, but I'm certainly prepared that the Giants, there's a good chance, will not bring back Isaiah Simmons. Brogdon's a nice player. I like that too. I haven't kept up with all the Knicks rumors, but I know Murray's been one of the big ones they've brought up. But yeah, Brogdon would be a nice piece too. The Knicks need one more really nice piece. They don't need a superstar, I don't think, at this point, but they need one more really nice piece. And then I think they actually have a chance to compete. Jabari says, did you hear the Commanders are hiring Bob Myers from the Warrior? No. Really? Really? Jacob says, Tana, Shane also said he has done extensive research on this quarterback class. I mean, he doesn't need to tell me that. I know that. I mean, the guy's been to 3 North Carolina games. He's been to 2 USC games. He went to a Washington game. He's been to all the top quarterbacks. So I'm not surprised there. And if I'm Shane, I'm throwing all the information out there. I don't want you to know what I'm doing. Oh, I've done a ton of research on these quarterbacks. Oh, we like Daniel Jones. I don't want you to know what I'm doing. But I'm not. Yeah, I know he's done research on the quarterbacks. Jason, thank you very much, man. Love your podcast, Dana. But why do some of these content creators and fans swear they know more than Daboll and Shane? These guys won Coach of the Year and won a playoff game last year. I still believe in these two G-men. Hey, listen, I just try to be logical. I never try to sound like the smartest guy in the room. At the end of the day, I'm going to give whoever the general manager and the head coach is a chance. And the way I'm always going to look at it, and hey, call me a fan, Homer, I don't care. I'm a fan. The way I'm always going to look at it is I may not agree. I don't necessarily agree with the Wink decision I don't know all the specifics to it, Like, I don't know how the relationship was between Daboll and Wink from within the locker room. Like, I have no idea. I don't necessarily, I'm not in love with this decision. I wanted Wink back, but I'm always going to at least, give them a chance to carry their plan out. I'm going to see where it goes. I'm going to try to make sense of why they did what they did, whether it be a draft pick or whether it be a trade or a free agent signing or whatever. Everybody's different in terms of the way that they look at their football team. Some people, as soon as they make a move, want to be like, no, this is what I would have done, and they're wrong for doing it, and that's that. That's just not the way I am. If the Giants do something, I'm going to be like, okay, I may have preferred this, but I could understand. I'm going to try to make sense of why they did what they did. That's just the way I am. That's the way I am as a fan. It is what it is. But hey, everybody's entitled to their opinions. Everybody's entitled to talk about and fan the way that they want. Let's see. Like, I'm not going to be a guy this offseason that's going to scream if they don't take a quarterback. I'm not going to be a guy this offseason that's going to, scream if they trade. Like, I'm going to try to make sense whatever they do. If they trade back, if they take a wide receiver, whatever, and hopefully it works out. What would I do? If a team's willing to trade back, I would go up and get the quarterback. But I don't know if a team's willing to trade back. Independent says, if we lose all the good D free agency pieces due to Wink being done dirty, disaster. I know the D stats, the picks skyrocketed. Short leash now, sorry. We'll see. I mean, I think McKinney is going to come. It's going to come down to the money with McKinney. I don't think it has anything to do with Wink. McKinney signed an agent where he's going to want to get paid. We knew that before the year started. He's going to cost a lot of money. And I'm at the point now where I want McKinney back. I was 7 or 8 weeks ago. I didn't think I'd want to give him the money that he's probably going to command. And we'll see what he commands. But I'm hoping they bring McKinney back. I think he's a really good football player. I think he's a really good fit and a really important player on this defense. But it's going to come down to money. That has nothing to do with Wink leaving, in my opinion. If the Giants show McKinney the money, McKinney's coming back. I mean, what other prominent free? I mean, Simmons, as much as I like Simmons, he's rotational. You can find a guy like Simmons in the draft or free agency. McKinney's the big one. He's the big one on the defense, and we'll see. Let's see. I don't know if he's gone no matter what, honest. Independent. I don't know if he's gone no matter what. I don't know. We'll see. Pete, man, thank you very much, man. Wink, and hopefully you gotta catch me up with some movies, Pete. You gotta catch. I know you're a huge movie guy like me. I saw that. I know you didn't probably agree with it. We actually disagreed with what should we call it? The Christopher Nolan movie. Why does that name escape me? Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer won Best Picture last night at the Golden Globes. You probably didn't like that, but yeah, we got to talk some movies soon. Wink apparently told Daboll his scheme is garbage on his way out. DJ's limitations are making Daboll look like an overrated offensive mind. Daboll needs to get his guy and prove to the world again he's a true top offensive mind. I agree. Is it going to be this offseason? Is it going to be next? I agree. I'm strongly leaning we will have a new quarterback. I just don't know if it'll be this year. I don't know if it'll be this year or the year after that. But Daniel Jones would have to have a renaissance next year. And in my opinion, for Daniel, I could definitely foresee a scenario where Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback next year for all the reasons I've talked about throughout the stream. I don't think he'll be the unchallenged starting quarterback. I think they will at least draft somebody at some point in the draft, and they may very well draft the first-round pick and then pack your bags. But in the situation where they don't, if they sign a veteran, if they draft a guy in the 3rd or 4th round, the only way I see Daniel Jones sticking on the Giants past 2025, next year, another year after next year, is he'd have to be a top 6, 7 quarterback. Like, it would have to be indisputable. Like, this is a no doubt now. Like, he's the guy. Like, and for him to do that, he would have to have a mega year, a year that we were hoping he would have this year. I don't see it happening, unfortunately. But maybe he'll prove me wrong if he gets the opportunity. I hope he does if he gets the opportunity. Let's see. Jason says, why do people assume Davis is difficult to deal with? Wink's defense was not good. I think most fans and media love Wink because he was great on the mic. Well, Davis gives the media nothing. If Davis dropped, I mean, I think a big part of it I think a big part of it, why people like, I think the players seem to love Wink. And I think that's why a lot of fans hate this move. They see how much the players gravitate towards him. He's a player's coach. I think that's a major part why the fans wanted Wink back as much as they did. They see how much the players love playing for him. So that's his reputation. Players like playing for him because he's aggressive and he's a player's coach. So I think that's a big part of it. Let's see. And Pete, he says, a little movie talk. He says, Oppenheimer was a very good movie. Not all-time great. It winning over Killers of the Flower Moon was a travesty. Some of Scorsese's best work. Killers of the Flower Moon was great. I'm waiting. I saw it, of course, in theaters. I'm waiting for Killers of the Flower Moon to come out on Apple Plus so I can watch it again. I'm not paying $20 for it. But, yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon was awesome. Loved it. And the other one that won, because they have 2 Best Pictures at the Golden Globes. I haven't seen the other one. It looks like a wacky movie, the one that Emma Stone won Best Actress for, but it looks interesting. It looks like a female version of Frankenstein. I'll have to check it out. I forgot. Poor Things, I think it's called. I'll have to check it out. MY Giants 26 says, I think Jones won't be the same. Think the ACL will mess with his run ability. Seen proof of him playing nervous. Tell me he will be the same. I don't. I agree. I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be. He's going to be able to run the way that he's run before. I don't. He's going to have to evolve as a pocket passer if he wants to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And that means reading defenses quicker and processing faster and so on and so forth. And we'll see if he's able to do it. Jason says, did you see? No, I did not. But people have been raving about that. But no, I haven't seen it yet. That was like the surprise movie of the year. Notorious says, Daboll fired Wink's best friend. Yeah, but I don't blame him. Listen. Too bad. Like, Daboll's the head coach. We had the 29th most sacks in football this year. It's not like the outside linebackers played great this year. He gets paid to make those decisions. That's it. If Wink doesn't like that, too bad. You know, Daboll's doing what he thinks is best for the team. If it doesn't work, Daboll will lose his job next year or the year after that. But if Wink left because he fired the outside linebackers coach, too bad. See ya. We'll get another defensive coordinator. That's the way I look at it. And what's going on, Rudy, man? Good to see you, man. Hope you had a happy new year. Love, Rudy, man. Hope you're doing well. Ramaran says Leslie Frazier is the new defensive coordinator. That's going to be the rumored. That's going to be the rumor. Obviously, because his ties to Buffalo. I'm sure he's going to be one of the guys they bring in for an interview. Let's see. Independent says then Daboll loses his job and we get another coach. So what? Yeah, I mean, I don't want that. I don't want tons of turnover with the head coach. You know, I never liked that, but yeah, I mean, listen, especially if we don't draft the quarterback, I think Daboll needs to see some results next year. Otherwise, he could be in trouble. If we draft the quarterback, it probably buys him more time, but we'll see. Elvis, man, good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well, man. Let's just suck a few more years to get Arch Manning. There you go. Easy peasy. But guys, I'm going to close it out mainly because I want to watch the national championship game. I will be live. Well, not live. We'll see. There's going to be content. We'll talk about, I'm sure there's going to be videos I'm going to make. I know I haven't made videos in a while because of my work schedule. There's going to be videos I'm going to make because we're going to hire new coaches. So I'll definitely do individual videos on that. Talk about that. I'm sure there'll be rumors in terms of the coaches that we're bringing in. So I'll try to do a video on that as well. Once we get a list of defensive coordinators we're bringing in. I'm really excited about the offensive line coach that we're going to be hiring. That's important. So excited to learn more about him. I hope that we bring in a guy with some, credentials because we certainly need it. We need some stability at that position. So that's going to be major. But looking forward to it, guys. And Matt Patricia. I do not want Matt Patricia. I do not want Matt Patricia. You could be done with Matt Patricia. I don't want Mark Colombo. No. I don't think we'll have Mark Colombo, though. I'm not worried about that. And with the 6th pick in the NFL draft, the New York Giants select we'll see, Stan. I don't think we're going to, though, but we'll see. I saw a lot of people say Rex Ryan. Hey. Here's my question, Ja. Here's my question. And listen, Rex Ryan is a tremendous defensive coordinator. Didn't care for his personality he was with the New York Jets because he trashed on the Giants every chance he got. Tremendous defensive coordinator. But if you're Rex Ryan, you're sitting in your cushy ESPN job. You're probably making millions of dollars. I don't know what he makes, but he probably makes millions of dollars. You've been out of the league now for what? 15 years? Whatever it's been. Probably 12 years, 10 years. If you're Rex Ryan, do you want to come back to be a defensive coordinator? You probably would come back to be a head coach. Would you want to? Would you? I don't think he'd want to come back to be a defensive coordinator. Let's see. Camp aim and feet picks. Spags back. I mean, why would Kansas City fire him? Kansas City's defense has been tremendous this year. Why would they fire him? I don't see that. Vincent says, I'm a little skeptical we will be able to get a defensive coordinator with good credentials because the whole situation feels like Daboll is doing Wink dirty. Maybe. I mean, I'm not too worried about it, Vincent, but hey, maybe. We'll see. Why not call the game? Because I work today. I work till 6. I want to relax. I want to watch it. That's why. Bad Dog's calling it anyway. So going over to Bad Dog. Watch it with him. Calling some Knicks games. I got to look at the schedule, but I will be live for some Knicks games soon. But guys, be good. You guys have a great rest of your night and enjoy the national championship. Be good, guys.